Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into episode 8 of Matetheseries. It all started with Jen's family's problems escalating. Everything was still under investigation for both the murder and the money laundering. During this time, Jen's father had been liquidating his assets and transferring money to a bank abroad. The family was preparing to leave the country soon. But for Jen, the situation was more complicated. She couldn't leave Ori behind because Ori had no one else but her. Jen found herself at a crossroads, to stay with Ori or leave with her family. Ori, terrified that Jen might abandon her, followed her everywhere. One day, as they sat on the couch, Ori asked, "Why do you have to go with your dad? You didn't do anything wrong." Jen replied, "I didn't do anything wrong, but if we stay here, we won't have any money. My family has already moved all our money out of the country." Ori asked curiously, "Are you leaving because of money?" Jen sighed and explained, "My dad's old enemies are waiting for the right moment. The best revenge for them would be to hurt his children. You understand, right?" However, the main reason was still money. If Jen's father was proven guilty, all their assets would be confiscated, leaving the family bankrupt. Ori pressed further, "So, are you leaving because of the money or because of your dad's enemies?" Jen admitted, "Maybe both. I just need to be prepared." Hearing this, Ori's mood shifted drastically. She was scared Jen would leave her again. "You promised you wouldn't leave," Ori said with a trembling voice. Jen reassured her, "I promise I won't leave you." Hearing this, Ori smiled softly and said, "But we can't stay here together, can we?" Jen nodded. "Yes, there will be too many expenses. We have to move somewhere first, but we don't know where yet. If the day comes and we have no money, I'll just be a poor Jen who doesn't know how to survive." Ori smiled and said, "Don't worry. You've got me. I'll support you. If you're with me, I can do anything." Ori began searching for a new place for them to live. While scrolling, she glanced at Jen and smiled. "I like this feeling. It's like we're running away together." For Jen, seeing Ori like this eased her pain. Before, the thought of leaving Ori caused her great distress. But now, she had decided, if the day came, she would not run away with her family. She would stay with Ori. They both agreed on a small town, quiet and away from people, as their escape plan. Ori hugged Jen tightly and said, "This will be our new home." The next morning, Jen received a tense call from Uncle Somkit. "Jen, it's time to go. I'll send someone to pick you up and take you to the airport." Jen asked desperately, "Can I take Ori with me?" Uncle Somkit replied, "We're on the run, Jen. How would your family feel if you brought Ori along? She's the reason your family is in trouble in the first place." Ori, sensing something was wrong, began to cry. "Jen, you won't leave me, will you?" she asked. Jen turned to her, forcing a smile to comfort her. But she stayed silent, deep in thought. Should she choose her family or Ori? It was a turning point. Finally, she grabbed Ori's hand and said, "Let's run away." She added urgently, "We have to leave now. My dad's people are coming for me. We have to go." Ori, with tears streaming down her face, smiled at Jen, but for Jen, the decision felt uncertain, whether it was right or wrong, she didn't know. But one thing was clear, she couldn't leave Ori alone. In less than 5 minutes, they hastily packed their belongings. Ori didn't forget to grab the little monkey doll. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving it behind. Before stepping out, Jen took one last look around the apartment, her heart heavy with nostalgia. Memories lingered in every corner, the cozy spot where Ori wrote her novel, the bed they had shared, and the desk stacked with her college homework. But those moments now belonged to a chapter she had to close. Her life was about to change irrevocably. With urgency in their steps, they left the condominium, rushing into the unknown together. Ori took charge of choosing their destination, guiding them to a quiet province where they found a small, inexpensive room to rent. The first glimpse of the place, a shabby old bed that creaked with every movement and the absence of modern comforts like air conditioning or a water heater, left Jen visibly unimpressed. Sensing her discomfort, Ori flashed a reassuring smile. With her trademark optimism, she declared, "It's not old, it's classic. We can find happiness here." Despite everything, her confidence was contagious, and Jen couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope, especially when she saw Ori's radiant smile. The next day, Ori and Jen went out together, walking hand in hand as they tried to forget their problems. Their steps were light, their laughter carefree, and they reveled in the freedom of being in a place where no one knew who they were. When Jen decided to buy something, she went to the ATM to withdraw cash. However, her attempts to access her account failed. Confused and alarmed, she tried again, but the result was the same. A terrible realization struck her: her family's assets, including her own, had been frozen due to legal actions. Seeing her distress, Ori immediately said, "It's okay, Jen, we can live without money." She hugged Jen, who stood stunned, overwhelmed by the fact that she now had nothing. Jen tried to explain, her voice tinged with frustration, "Even though we live in the countryside, we still need money, Ori. We have to pay rent, utilities, and more." Ori, ever determined, replied, "I still have some money from my book sales, and I'll get more jobs." "Don't worry." Jen insisted, "I'll find work too." But Ori's tone sharpened as she said, "No, I won't let you. I told you, I'll take care of you. You don't have to work." Jen chuckled softly, brushing off Ori's protectiveness. "It's fine. There's got to be something I can do," she said. But deep down, Ori didn't want Jen to endure hardship. She wanted her to stay home, safe and cared for. Yet Jen couldn't shake the growing discomfort of being so dependent. Determined, she spent the next day looking for a suitable job. After a fruitless search, discouragement set in. As she wandered back, Jen felt a presence behind her, as though someone was following her. Fear gripped her, and she ran, her heart pounding. In her rush, she bumped into Dr. Min and Doc Phi, who were visiting the area. They invited her to sit at a cafe, and Jen, overwhelmed, shared her struggles adjusting to life with Ori. Doc Phi listened attentively and gently advised, "Challenges like these test the strength of your relationship. Stay strong, and you'll grow together." Buoyed by their advice, Jen returned home to find Ori waiting anxiously at the front door. The moment she saw Jen, Ori ran to her and asked, "Where were you?" Jen hesitated, unable to meet Ori's eyes. "I was looking for a job," she admitted. "But there's nothing I can do." Ori hugged her tightly and reassured her, promising to take care of her no matter what. Seeing Ori's unwavering smile, Jen felt a flicker of hope, even though a part of her still felt useless. Their life became simpler. Though they couldn't afford luxurious meals like before, they found joy in each other's company. Whenever Jen felt discouraged, Ori was there with a smile and words of encouragement. One evening, Jen noticed something in Ori's hand. Curious, she grabbed it and saw her palm was covered in scars and scratches. Alarmed, Jen asked, "Why is your hand like this?" Ori hesitated before admitting, "I'm allergic to detergent." Jen, worried, asked, "Can detergent really hurt you this much?" Ori pulled her hand away and smiled sweetly. "I'm happy you're worried about me." But Jen wasn't reassured. She suspected Ori was hiding something. She pressed further about Ori's part-time work, and Ori reluctantly admitted, "I help sell things at the market." Trying to sound upbeat, Ori added, "It's nothing to worry about." Jen frowned. "If the job is too difficult for you, please don't do it." Ori's smile faltered as she replied, "We won't have money if I don't." Hearing this, Jen fell silent. She felt helpless, unsure of what to do. Then, suddenly, a thought struck her. Dr. Thought. He was the one person she could turn to for help. Determined to seek a solution, Jen reached out to Dr. Thought. Upon hearing from her, he was relieved and promised to visit. The next morning, Dr. Thought arrived and handed Jen $3,000. Jen stared at the money in shock. "I know you're rich, but I never thought you'd be this generous to me." "You know I'm broke, right?" she said with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. But Dr. Thought shook his head. "This isn't my money. It's from your mom. After I talked to you, I contacted her. She gave me this to pass on to you." Hearing this, Jen's gratitude turned to frustration. She clenched her fists and snapped, "Why did you tell her where I am? I didn't want my family to know about this place." Dr. Thought looked at her seriously and replied, "Your mom is worried sick about you. She's terrified that your dad's enemies might find and hurt you." Jen retorted, "You shouldn't have told her. I didn't want this to become a big issue." Dr. Thought's voice firmed. "Running away is already a big issue. Your mom was desperate to know you're safe. This place may seem remote, but danger can find anyone, anywhere." Jen argued back. "No one will find me here. This is a small, quiet town. I'm safe." Dr. Thought's patience wore thin. "Stop being naive, Jen, the world isn't as safe as you think. You've lived under your father's protection all your life, but now you're out here with nothing. The reality is harsh. No matter how tough you think you are, this isn't sustainable." Jen raised her voice. "I'm not going anywhere. I've made my decision, and I'll stay here with Ori." Dr. Thought sighed deeply, his tone softening. "And what happens when you run out of money? What about your future? Are you going to give up your education?" Jen replied firmly, "I can manage everything here with Ori." Dr. Thought didn't back down. "And what about Ori? Will she stop going to school too? Will you drag her into this life, ruining not just your future but hers as well?" Jen's anger flared at his words. She shouted, "You don't understand anything." Dr. Thought shook his head, looking at her with concern. "Your mom will send someone to pick you up," he said plainly. Jen's eyes widened. "Why are you doing this? You found me, and now you want to force me to run away again?" Dr. Thought sighed, trying to remain calm. "I'm trying to make you see the reason. Your mom wants you to come to Macau. At least there, you can continue your education and wait for things to settle down. You can return whenever you want, but staying here like this won't help anyone." Jen shook her head, her voice trembling. "I don't want to go." Dr. Thought frowned. "Think about it, Jen, if you stay here, Ori won't be able to go to school either. She'll have to keep working hard to support both of you. Is that what you want for her?" Before leaving, Dr. Thought added a final piece of advice. "Money doesn't magically fill the stomach, Jen, love needs money too. At the very least, learn how to survive and make money." He left the money on the table and walked out, leaving Jen torn between her pride and the harsh truth of his words. Jen returned to the rental room to find Ori utterly exhausted, her hands rough and calloused from relentless labor. She learns that Ori had been lying about working at the market and had instead taken a physically demanding job to make ends meet. Despite Jen's feelings of guilt, Ori reassures her, expressing that simply being together brings her happiness. But seeing Ori like this, worn down yet still smiling, brought Dr. Thought's harsh words crashing back into Jen's mind. He had accused her of dragging Ori into a life of suffering, and now, faced with the reality of their situation, she couldn't deny it. Refusing to let her pride continue to burden Ori, Jen made the heartbreaking decision to leave. Before leaving, however, Jen wanted to give Ori a moment of happiness to hold on to. She planned a surprise trip to the beach, knowing how much Ori loved the ocean. Though hesitant because of unfinished work, Ori eventually agreed after Jen secured permission for her absence. The day was magical, they walked along the shore, laughed like they hadn't in months, and captured precious memories together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jen surprised Ori with a kiss, sealing the day with an unforgettable moment of love and tenderness. That night, they embraced fully, allowing their love to overcome the weight of their struggles, if only for a moment. But as the night gave way to morning, Jen's resolve hardened. She couldn't ignore the voice in her head telling her that staying would only hurt Ori more in the long run. While Ori still slept, Jen sat at the table and poured her heart into a goodbye letter. She confessed her love and admiration for Ori but admitted her inability to endure their current life. She couldn't let Ori sacrifice herself any longer. To ensure Ori wouldn't follow her, Jen reluctantly bound Ori's hand to the bed with a pair of handcuffs, her tears falling as she whispered an apology. Before leaving, she asked teacher Sally to take care of Ori. With a heavy heart, Jen walked out of the room and into the waiting car with Dr. Thought. Every step away from Ori felt like a knife to her heart, but she convinced herself it was for the best. When Ori awoke, she immediately sensed Jen's absence. Her eyes fell on the letter on the table, and dread washed over her as she read its contents. Realizing what had happened, Ori let out a gut-wrenching scream, tears streaming down her face. Desperation consumed her as she fought against the restraints, but the handcuffs held firm, leaving her wrists raw and bruised. The pain in her hands was nothing compared to the agony in her heart. Ori cried out for Jen, her sobs echoing through the empty room. The woman who had been her world was gone, and the realization left her utterly shattered. What will happen next? Stay tuned for the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share to show your support for the channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.